Hello, I'm the ASMR psychologist. Welcome to my channel. Now, today we're going to be doing an ASMR and positive psychology Q&A. So, a couple of days ago, I posted a request in my community section on my channel, asking you if you had any questions for me. So, today we're going to work our way through as many of those as we can. If you enjoy this type of video, let me know by giving me an up thumb and I will make more of them. My plan at the moment is to do maybe one a week on a Sunday, but we'll see how it goes. We'll see how popular it is, how helpful you find it, but of course you can let me know by giving me an up thumb, by posting your thoughts in the comments, and of course by continuing to ask me questions. And if you find this helpful, this type of video, please consider sharing it with your friends. Okay, so let's take a look and see what questions we have today. So I'm gonna go from the oldest questions and work forward to make it fair. Okay, so the first question is, what can you do for a panic attack while you're travelling in a plane or car? Okay, so I think anxiety when travelling is very common, particularly in a plane, actually. The best way to manage this is to start with your thoughts, because it's the way that we think about things that creates anxiety. The car or the aeroplane, as an inanimate object, doesn't have the power to create anxiety. If it did, we'd all feel anxious in those situations, and obviously only some people do. So it's our thoughts that create the anxiety, and it's two types of thoughts in particular that create anxiety that kind of combine. So you begin by looking at those thoughts. The first one is a tendency to overestimate a disaster, and that combines with underestimating your ability to cope. So begin by pulling out those thoughts, maybe writing them down on a piece of paper, and looking at both their accuracy, so the evidence that supports them, and the evidence that contradicts them, and their helpfulness. Because sometimes our thoughts are quite accurate, but they don't provide a particularly helpful focus. I often give the analogy of trying to escape from the top floor of a burning building, and you have the thought, I could die doing this. It's quite accurate, but in that moment it's not a particularly helpful focus. So I'd start there. I'd start by identifying your thoughts, and then I'd look at some strategies that will help to switch off your sympathetic nervous system, which is the part of the nervous system which is active when you feel anxious. So to switch that off and switch on your parasympathetic nervous system, which is the part of our nervous system that's active when we're relaxed. there's a number of different techniques you can use for this. ASMR is one of them, but also there are different breathing techniques, relaxation exercises as well. So maybe explore that a bit and find the ones that work the best for you. So you look at your thoughts, you then go into the situation with some techniques to help lower your feelings of anxiety by switching your nervous system into the right mode. The final part of this is probably the trickiest. When we're scared of something, we avoid it. It's the run to the back of the cave and hide response we've inherited from our ancestors. And as much as that feels like the right thing to do, in the moment, you mustn't do it. The more you avoid something, the more you rob yourself of the opportunity to learn that you actually can cope, you can survive, that the disaster you anticipate isn't going to happen. So you need to find a way to be in that situation, to gather the evidence for yourself that will ultimately challenge those thoughts that are creating the anxiety. So the evidence that the disaster isn't going to happen and that you can manage how you feel in that situation. I talk a little bit about this in my psychologist role play, so you maybe tune into those and get some additional techniques, but hopefully that will get you started. It's a very common problem though, very common indeed. Okay, so let's have a look what's next. Okay, I study psychology at university and I want to be a psychologist in the future. Your videos help me in many ways. My question is, how can we control our thoughts? Okay, so I would do things. First of all, I would consider a slightly different approach. Rather than trying to control your thoughts, the best way to interact with your thoughts is to understand them. Knowledge is power, I guess. So understand why you tend to think about things in the way that you're thinking about things, and it will be a combination of your natural inclination. Are you an introvert, an extrovert? These types of things. But also your early experiences. What have you been taught about your value, your worth? What have you been taught to expect from other people? And what have you learned about the world? These things are the lens through which we understand what is happening, the lens through which our thoughts are created. The way you ask the question makes me think you're talking specifically about negative thoughts. So maybe the answer to the previous question will also help you there to consider the thoughts that you're having and look at how accurate they are and how helpful they are. The problem with trying to control things to make them other than they are is that we tend to get very tangled up. Sometimes the place to start is to understand why things are the way they are, and then that often gives us a clearer path through. Okay, I hope that was helpful. Again, particularly if you're studying psychology, the psychologist role plays that I do on a weekly basis, I can't remember which day it is. It might be Monday. Oh no, it's Wednesday, on a Wednesday. There's a lot of information about that in those, about working with your thoughts, different strategies and approaches you can take. The other thing you might find helpful as well is a mindfulness approach, and this is a different way of sort of interacting with our internal experiences, of which our thoughts are one. Okay. I think I might have had this question before. Why do we wake up sometimes in the middle of the night? I think I might have answered this last time, but I'll quickly answer it again. when we sleep, throughout the night we go through cycles. Each cycle lasts about 45 minutes to an hour. So we start sort of here, conscious, and we drop down through the levels of sleep and consciousness, stage 1, 2, 3, and then we work our way back towards consciousness. We have our REM sleep about here, which is where our most vivid dreams occur. And then we sort of just nudge into consciousness before dropping back down into another cycle when we go through the night, just sort of going like this. When we're up here, we're just nudging consciousness most of the time. All things being equal, we don't wake up. But if there is something in our external environment, a pain, we might need the loo, or a stress, that can pull us into a full conscious state. So that's generally the reason that we wake up, when there's some sort of physical discomfort or psychological or emotional discomfort. It's a common symptom of both anxiety and depression, waking up in the night, because those sort of negative, anxious thoughts tend to pull us out of our sleep when we get close to consciousness. Okay, so an ASMR one. Do you think ASMR has a tangible psychological benefit for things like mental health, or more of a placebo effect, something that should be used primarily for entertainment and relaxation? I think ASMR, if you look at the way it has developed, it probably answers that question. It very much started as something that, non-health professionals were doing. The majority of ASMR artists aren't psychologists or therapists or medics. They're just people. But they're people that are creating something that has been massively helpful for people suffering from insomnia and stress and depression. So despite the fact that it maybe began or has its origins in something quite recreational, it's kind of being quite insistent in terms of pushing itself forward to help people. There's not been much research done on ASMR. I think there's only 11 studies that have been published in kind of proper journals. But what those suggest is that it does actually have some real benefits. It's still speculative. 11 studies isn't many, particularly considering how many people are into ASMR. But ASMR triggers some quite beneficial brain chemicals. Melatonin, obviously, which is the chemical that helps us to sleep. It triggers sleep and it determines the quality. Dopamine, endorphins, so these are the ones that make us feel good and focused. So and obviously it has many benefits for stress and relaxation. You know yourself, if you experience ASMR, it can make you feel really good. There's a research study that I think I talk about in a previous video this week that looks at how similar it is to a technique called mindfulness, which is increasingly being incorporated into psychological treatments to sort of boost existing ones. So I think that there's thinking, and this is certainly my thoughts on the subject, that we need to find out a little bit more about ASMR, but it looks as if it really does have some proper potential to help with psychological and maybe even physical health and well-being moving forward. So yeah, I think it's more than just for entertainment. Okay, let's have a look what we have next. Ooh, another ASMR one. I've often wondered if ASMR artists ever get ASMR from hearing their own videos. Has this ever happened to you? That's very interesting. Okay, so it hasn't happened to me, and I'll tell you why I'm not surprised about that. But interestingly, obviously I have to listen to my videos back, which is always, well, it has the potential to be quite a painful experience, watching your own videos, listening to your own voice. We all have a tendency on a recording to sound like 8-year-old girls, which is never good. But what I found is that I don't mind listening back to these types of videos, and I have them running in the background just to check I haven't said anything awful, or there's not some dreadful tummy rumble, although there often is. I have quite a rumbly tummy. I don't really post those videos anyway, and hope you don't mind too much, but I found that I don't mind listening to them, whereas maybe listening to my older style videos that weren't ASMR, I found that slightly tougher. So there's something there. I don't get the tingles, but I think I feel quite chilled out listening to them. Or maybe at least neutral. Now, the reason that I'm not surprised I don't get tingles from my own videos is my hypothesis, and this fits with some of the early research, is that ASMR is kind of recreating or mimicking those early caregiving experiences. If you think about ASMR videos, particularly the spoken ones, there's a calmness, a gentleness to them. They're very intimate and nurturing. We often sit very close to the camera and you can't really see much else. Almost, well, very similar to a mother talking to a small baby. The brain chemicals that are triggered as well are oxytocin is one of them, which is the brain chemical that is triggered in the mother and the baby when the baby's being breastfed. So if this is the case, I'd be surprised if you'd get tingles from your own videos, because you kind of need somebody else to care for you. But that soft whispering voice would still trigger some of the relaxation effects, just minus the tingles. I don't know, I think that was maybe a bit of a rambly answer, but I hope that makes sense. It's interesting. I'd be very interested to know what other artists say. I don't know if other artists listen to this channel, but if there are other artists listening to this channel, maybe pop your experiences in the comments. I mean, this is all helps us to learn more about ASMR and its function. So I think it definitely has a function when an experience is had on such a worldwide level. There is always a sort of an evolutionary purpose to it. And the more we understand about something, the stronger position we put ourselves in to kind of use it. Okay. That's what's next. Okay, what to expect if you're scared about having therapy? Okay. I think this is really common, and I think it's something that puts off a lot of people from having therapy. They can't get over the fear. So, a couple of things here maybe. First of all, I've done a video. I did it a while ago when I first started this channel. It wasn't an ASMR channel, it was just straight psychology. And I think there is at least one video that might be called What to Expect from Your First Counselling Session or something similar. If you scroll back through the videos, the old videos have like a yellow or mustard coloured panel down the side. I'm wearing glasses. I just had a baby when I started the channel and my eyes were really dry because I was breastfeeding, so I had to wear my glasses, so you'll be able to see the difference in the videos, the old style videos. So that kind of takes you through in quite a lot of detail. The main reason I made that video was because it was something people often asked. So maybe watch that. Keep in mind that everybody finds going to therapy quite anxiety provoking. What are we going to be asked? Am I going to be able to handle it? is it going to help? Is it going to make me worse? To kind of quell the fear, I would certainly be very careful about your choice of therapist. You're choosing somebody who can clearly tell you what their training is and why they've trained in that way. That's something that you can go and look up on the internet and see that it's, a proper qualification. And also they should be a member of some type of professional body that is monitoring their work. I think if you can go to someone who you know is kind of proper, it does soothe you. And one of the most important things about therapy is your connection with your therapist. So kind of go with an open mind. Go thinking, I'm going to go a few times. The once is never enough, I don't think, because often our nerves are such that we can't kind of make a informed decision. So think, I'm going to go maybe 2 or 3 times and I'm just going to see. There's nothing to be lost. Those first few sessions will very much be about the therapist gathering information and telling you what they're going to do. This is really important, that they are transparent and clear about their treatment plan. They should understand that you're apprehensive and it's their job to make you feel comfortable. So if they're able to do those things in the first few sessions and you feel, this is someone I think I could talk to, off you go. But if not, then look for somebody else. But always start with someone's qualifications and their membership of a professional body. Okay, I hope that was helpful. And of course, the other thing to do is to watch I keep mentioning these, but my psychologist role plays. Those are based on actual sessions that I carry out with people. So, that should give you a good idea. And maybe if you haven't watched the first one, that's the assessment. So you can see the type of questions that I ask. They're pretty standard questions. So that will give you an idea as well. Okay. Right. Are there different types of therapy, such as CBT or psychotherapy, each suited for particular problems or questions, or are they more suited to some issues than others? Okay, that's a good question. The best type of therapy is a therapy that has been individually tailored to what you need, drawing on the evidence-based. So you want to go and see a therapist that is trained to work in that way. So they're not just using their favourite treatment or their favourite therapy. They meet you, they assess your problem, your goals, your personality, and then based on that, they put together a treatment programme that is specifically or individually tailored to you and your needs, but with an awareness of the evidence base of what works. The largest evidence base is actually the treatment that you mentioned in your question, CBT or cognitive behavioural therapy. That has been tested with the largest range of mental health problems. I think it can be used with the majority of mental health problems successfully. But you want someone who can work with the principles of CBT. They're not just kind of taking a protocol off the shelf and doing the same thing with everybody. So this comes back to what I was talking about in one of the other answers about finding a therapist who is well trained. I hope that helps. Okay. Next question. Here we go. How long did it take you to become a psychologist? Felt like a long time. So I can tell you about the training in the UK. It's different in different countries, but In the UK, it generally involves an undergraduate psychology degree, which takes 3 years. And then there's a period of between about 1 to 5 years where you work as an apprentice. So you go out and you try and get experience in various different clinics and hospitals. You're sort of building up your CV so that you can then apply to the final stage of the training, which is a 3-year doctorate. So many people think it's a PhD. It's not. It's a taught doctorate, more akin to like medical training. So you have rotations. So you work for 6 months in one area, in one hospital, and then you move on to another hospital. So you will, for example, work in adult mental health, and you'll work with children, older adults, learning disabilities, neuropsych testing, blah, blah, blah. So you'll be on placement for, I think, maybe 3 or 4 days a week, and then you have 1 to 2 days of lectures, and then on top of that you also have to submit a piece of research. So in total my training was 9 years, so my bit in the middle was 3 years, but as I say, it kind of depends on where you are in the country and your success of applying to courses, but it's usually between about 1 to 5 years. That middle part, but yeah, 9 years for me. Okay. What would you say to someone considering psychology in university, and does sociology help with psychology? What would I say? I think I answered a question similar to this last time. I'd think carefully about your motives. I'd make sure that you're not studying psychology as a way of trying to heal yourself. It's very common to want to understand yourself, but if you're studying psychology, particularly if you're considering going on to be a therapist to offer clinical help to people, it's really important that you're in therapy yourself, so that you know what's your stuff and what's your patient's stuff. So that's what I would say to someone who's considering studying psychology. I think a lot of people are drawn into the field because they have difficulties, but maybe are finding it too difficult to face them. And then once you're kind of in the swing of dealing with other problems, your problems get pushed to the back, while they don't get better on their own. So I would always make sure that you have your own therapy and you are actively working on your own difficulties. As far as sociology is concerned, I think it definitely complements psychology. I know I did a sociology course as a part of my first year of my undergraduate psychology degree. So yes, it's a definite complement. You're sort of understanding the context within which we live in. So, that can never be a bad thing. Okay, I think one more question. I'll put the wrong pin number in. Okay. Okay, what's a good way to help someone close to you with social anxiety? Okay, so I would begin by trying to understand social anxiety. So, read as much as you can, go onto YouTube, watch some videos. So you just have as much information, as much knowledge. Knowledge is power. Understanding places is in a much stronger position to take action. But then I would make sure that you don't use that knowledge to make any assumptions. Then go and speak to the person that you care about and ask them what they need. It's not always the right time for someone to change, but you can make it clear that you are here to help them in whatever way they need to be helped, and then be patient. Be patient and wait for them to ask for your help, always making sure they know that you're still there, waiting to help them. One thing you need to be careful is to get a right balance, so you're not facilitating an anxiety, that you're kind of feeding into it or supporting it in some way. That's quite complex to go into here. Maybe that's for another video, but I would certainly begin by educating yourself and making it clear to the person that you're there to help in the way that they need you to help. So you ask them what they need as an individual. Okay, I hope that's helpful. It's difficult. I've got another older style video about helping others with mental health problems. It's called Help for Carers of People with Mental Health Problems. So you can maybe take a look at that. There's hopefully some ideas there that will help you. Okay, so we'll finish there. I hope that there was some useful stuff in there. I hope it was enjoyable to listen to. And as always, if you are interested in some exclusive content, or you would just like to support me making these videos, you can come and see me on Patreon. The link should pop up here. Okay, in the meantime, thank you for joining me today. I hope that you enjoy whatever it is you're doing next, and I will see you soon.